Markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian markets trade mixed, with tech stocks weighing on sentiment after a soft session on Wall Street. Japan's Nikkei, South Korea's Kospi, and Singapore's Straits Times post modest gains, while Hong Kong, China, and Australian markets edge lower. In the currency market, the US dollar holds steady against the Japanese yen and the Hong Kong dollar, but slips against the Singapore dollar, South Korean won, and the Thai baht. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, gains ground against the greenback. In commodities, gold climbs nearly 1%, while oil prices also trade higher. In cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin drops over 3%, and Ethereum declines more than 2%. A fire broke out at the office of the Department of Public Works and Highways, Quezon City, on Wednesday. It was declared under control at 1:34 p.m. and was eventually extinguished a few minutes later. In a statement, the DPWH said no documents related to the investigation into the flood control anomalies were in the Bureau of Research and Standards building. But ICI chairperson Andres Reyes Jr. says 1% documentation may have been destroyed by the fire, citing the testimony of former DPWH engineer Bryce Hernandez. The Ombudsman, for its part, has directed the immediate coordination with the National Bureau of Investigation and the Bureau of Fire Protection to determine the cause or to determine if the cause of the fire was arson. More Filipinos want President Marcos to focus on inflation instead of corruption issues. That's according to the latest Social Weather Station survey. It shows 56% saying the president should tackle the prices of rice and other food products, and 31% urging the government to address corruption. The survey, held last month, was commissioned by the think tank Stratbase Group. Stratbase President Dindo Manhit says the survey shows the need for the Marcos administration to recalibrate its priorities. Senate President Tito Sotto is confident that Senator Panfilo Lacson will return as chairperson of the powerful Blue Ribbon Committee. Lacson was replaced by Senator Erwin Tulfo, but only in an acting capacity. Sotto clarifies Lacson did not resign to save the Senate presidency amid rumors of another possible Senate shakeup. Lacson relinquished his chairmanship, citing disappointment among his colleagues with the direction of the flood control probe.
Merong ganung mga salita pero nanaig pa rin ako, tingin ko sa side na hindi, straight thinker sila eh. Straight thinkers yung mga colleagues ko eh. Ganun eh. Alam nila yung ano.
So Senator Ping did not resign to save the Senate presidency?
No, he did not. No. Merong mga ayaw ng hearing. Merong gusto yung hearing. Pinararating sa kanya. So frustrated siya eh. Ano ba talaga?
Ano ba talaga, kuya?
Ano ba talaga? Oo, parang ganun eh.
Members of the Philippine Contractors Accreditation Board, or PCAB, can no longer own a construction company. Trade Secretary Maria Cristina Roque calls this a clear conflict of interest as she faced the Independent Commission for Infrastructure, which is investigating corruption in government projects. Roque adds all PCAB board members who previously resigned amid the flood control scandal will soon be replaced. A clear warning from the Ombudsman: no one linked to the flood control scandal can cut a deal without returning the public funds in full. Ombudsman Jesus Crispin Remulla says those facing cases will be required to pay back every peso they stole if they want to enter into a plea bargaining agreement. He adds there are already complaints involving 5 flood control projects now under preliminary investigation by his office. He notes the review of these complaints should not drag on. He laments that in the last 15 years, the government has lost close to 600 billion pesos from cases dismissed in court due to inordinate delays in prosecution. Another twist in the flood control and 1MDB controversies. Former House Speaker Martin Romualdez and the Maharlika Investment Corporation are denying alleged links to Patrick Mahoney. He's the British-Swiss financier identified as a key player in the Malaysia 1MDB corruption scandal, a billion-dollar fraud that drained the Malaysian state fund and toppled a government. A Malaysia-based investigative news site reported that Mahoney has been advising officials behind the Maharlika Fund and was frequently seen in Manila with Romualdez. The MIC dismissed the story as false and potentially damaging, while Romualdez called the claims entirely unfounded, misleading, and malicious. The former speaker is also among officials tagged in the multi-billion peso flood control scandal. We're taking a short break. More stories are coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. You're back on Business Brief. Megawide Construction Corporation's real estate arm, PH1 World Developers Incorporated, reports 3.38 billion pesos in sales for the first 9 months of 2025. In a disclosure, it says this is more than double last year's 1.59 billion in the same period. The company attributes the strong sales to strategic project locations and its approach to delivering a first-world living experience consistent with Megawide's mission. One of the country's top investment houses says capital markets remain bullish yet vigilant amid the flurry of flood control and corruption scandals. Paulo Barcelon joins us on the line for the details. Hi, Paulo. Go ahead.
My experts say capital markets remain largely unaffected by the flood control scandal. Security Bank Capital Coverage head Margoli told reporters at an exclusive media briefing Wednesday that investor confidence in capital markets, specifically from foreigners, remains high despite ongoing corruption probe.
We see that there's still a lot of interest, especially from foreign investors. We have good quality cornerstone investors coming in, such as IFC and ADB. And we believe that Maynilad will be performing well also in the secondary market.
Lee adds, firms are keeping tabs on every deal they make to ensure deals are done above board and in accordance with the law.
And we do take our own due diligence and care as if we were the own investor when we sell it to the public. So we work with both counsels of the issuer as well as our own counsel, and it's very extensive when we do our due diligence.
The investment house has seen extensive participation in public-private partnerships as it has helped in arranging the 52 billion peso capital expenditure loan for ultra-billionario Ramon Ang's new NAIA Infra Corporation. It is also helping arrange the 100 billion peso loan for the MRT-7 project, also under Mr. Ang's belt. The investment house is celebrating its 30th year this 2025, and SB Capital President Virgilio Chua says he sees 2026 to be a stronger year for capital markets. Mai.
Thank you for that report, Paulo Barcelon. The Trade Department destroys non-compliant and unregistered ceramic sanitary wares and steel products worth 4.6 million pesos in its warehouse in Marikina. This is part of the observance of Consumer Welfare Month. Trade Assistant Secretary Regino Malyari says they confiscated around 300 million pesos worth of unregistered products in 2024, and they want to surpass it this year to ensure that the public will only be provided with quality and registered products. Local manufacturers have appealed to authorities to crack down on cheaper and unregistered products. TikTok reaffirms its commitment to empowering Filipino tourism enterprises through its new partnership with the Department of Tourism. The Memorandum of Agreement was signed between Tourism Secretary Cristina Frasco and Yves Gonzalez, Head of Public Policy at TikTok Philippines. The collaboration, named Content Camp Level Up with TikTok, aims to support micro, small, and medium enterprises in the tourism sector. TikTok also plans to help Filipino brands and businesses reach more people through authentic content and community engagement. A new reform is opening doors for overseas Filipinos, allowing them to invest directly in central bank securities through their retirement funds. OFWs can now buy into BSP-issued instruments through retirement-focused investment funds. The move follows a regulatory reform that lifts previous restrictions on non-resident investors. The BSP updated its rules to exempt personal equity and retirement account unit investment trust funds from the 10% non-resident ownership cap. With this change, PERA-registered UITFs can now invest directly in BSP securities, removing a major barrier and allowing more overseas Filipinos to diversify their retirement savings. We're taking another breather. A look at how Philippine shares did today when we return. Stay tuned. You're back on Business Brief. Global trade tensions are escalating and the Philippines may be caught in the crossfire. The country is now being urged to pursue more free trade deals to shield its exports from the fallout of America's escalating trade war. HSBC Global Investment Research says the Philippines needs to build stronger ties with more and bigger markets to decouple from the U.S. and make its exports more resilient. The call comes after President Trump imposed a new round of tariffs, including a 19% levy on Philippine goods, the same rate slapped on Indonesia, Cambodia, Malaysia, and Thailand. HSBC warns that the impact could deepen as Washington finalizes more sectoral tariffs. Electronics, a key Philippine export, could be among the next targets, pushing effective tariff rates even higher. A new flashpoint is emerging in Latin America. Venezuela is backing Colombia in its growing clash with the U.S., a move that could further strain Washington's ties in the region. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino expressed support for Colombia after U.S. President Trump announced plans to raise tariffs and cut off American aid to Bogota. Trump also called Colombian President Gustavo Petro an illegal drug leader. On Tuesday, Venezuela's military showcased a border operation targeting alleged drug trafficking camps, a display of force seen as a signal of regional solidarity against U.S. pressure. The jewelry stolen from the Louvre Museum is now estimated to be worth 88 million euros, or about $102 million. A Paris prosecutor told French radio the loot, which included pieces from the French crown jewels dating back to the Napoleonic era, was valued by the museum's curator. About 100 investigators are now involved in the manhunt to track down the thieves behind a daylight robbery last Sunday. Experts fear the jewels may never be recovered, although authorities warn that any attempt to dismantle or melt them down would diminish their value. The Louvre remains closed until Wednesday. A 4-day memorial service this week has been set for former Tacloban City Mayor Alfredo Romualdez, the younger brother of former First Lady Imelda Romualdez Marcos, And the uncle of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. passed away on October 17. In a Facebook post, his son, incumbent Tacloban Mayor Alfred Romualdez, said family, friends, and supporters can pay their final respects during the memorial service from October 22 to 25 at the Santo Niño Shrine and Heritage Museum in Tacloban. The 91-year-old former mayor served the city from 1998 to 2007. Philippine shares bounced back into negative territory after yesterday's gain. The PSEI closed more than 1% lower at 60.30, making it the worst performer in Asia. Among the sectoral indices, only holding firms ended in the green, with mining and oil falling the most at nearly 6%. Decliners outnumbered advancers 150 to 57, with value turnover reaching 10.8 billion pesos. Majority of the day's most active stocks were in the red, with Apex Mining falling the most at more than 11%. In currency markets, the peso trades at 58.32 against the US dollar, down from the previous close of 58.23. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Billionaire News Channel.